This is another myth that has to do with diligence. People who have endured a software project that's gone awry often think, if I were just more diligent with business requirements documents and better management and better project flow, we could eliminate the risk. One of the things that people engaging in a medium to large software project need to understand is that it is common that risk cannot be completely eliminated from the project. I have a list of 5 always risky aspects of a software project. And those are integration, data migration, customization, size of project, and new technology. And I'll quickly go through each one of those. Integration is when one system exchanges data with another. Data migration is when you bring data that existed in a previous system into the new system. So let's say, for example, you're installing an accounting package. You have to bring in all your finances, all your customer records from the old accounting package into the new accounting package. Customization, we've already referenced that in a previous slide. That's when you're custom coding something or customizing a feature. Large projects, by their very nature, are risky. So most people can clearly see that a larger project would just have more stuff going on, more pieces to keep track of, and that in itself makes it risky. And finally, new technologies are being released all the time. And if you decide to use a newer technology in your project, it's a little like the first model year of a car. Not a lot of people, enough people, have used the new technology in order for you to understand what all problems there might be. So those are the 5 always risky things in a project. You might be starting to see that some of these things might be core to your project. So for example, a business might be launching a software project to integrate data with an inventory system of a third party in order to make a process more efficient. Well, integration is the core of the project. Also, customization can often be the case in a project where you want to achieve innovation to gain a competitive advantage on your competition. So that might be the whole reason for doing the project. Well, if those things are true, then risk cannot be completely eliminated. But what you do want to think about is, how do I reduce risk? So for example, in the previous examples, you might have a new technology that a cadre of programmers wants to use because they want practice in this new technology. It's new and hot. Is it core to your project? Do you want to sign up for that level of risk for something that is for entertainment value, essentially? The answer is probably not. So of the 5 biggies, you want to decide what's core to your project and reduce the others to the degree possible. And then you want to set aside a contingency in both budget and timeline to take care of the risk that you're consciously signing up for. I usually advise 5 to 10% of the budget for each of the major risk areas. Oftentimes, in a project that is actually going awry, you can see the deadline looming, and you know you're not going to make it. And a persistent myth at this stage is to say, well, I mean, got to meet the deadline. Let's bring more people on the project in order to meet our deadline. People need to be aware from the beginning of a software project that that is not a strategy they should be keeping on the sidelines to pull in an emergency. Because the truth is, it really doesn't work. And it's actually more likely to delay a project. In my 20 years of experience, I have never seen this strategy work. And the case data also suggests that the strategy just doesn't work. And there's some key reasons why. I call them the threshold effect and the maximum number of wallpapers. First, the threshold effect. We've talked about business requirements. We've talked about getting them right. We've talked about programmers and other people on the project understanding and re-understanding and re-understanding. Okay, so now it's the 2/3 mark, and your project is going off the rails in terms of its timeline, which probably also means the budget. And you decide you're going to bring a bunch of new people in. 4 or 5 new programmers arrive. They somehow have to come into possession of all of the knowledge that the rest of the team has. Well, they can't just sort of open their heads and pour it in. Who's going to teach them? Your existing team. So that team grinds to a halt to onboard the new members, and that alone has eaten up any time savings you think you might have gotten. So just like getting people through a subway turnstile, a mob of 20 people can't plow through one turnstile at once. They have to go one by one into the project, which again often eats up any timeline savings that you thought you were going to have. The maximum number of wallpaperers. Imagine a typical living room. Imagine your living room, and you're going to wallpaper it. How many wallpaperers can you fit in your living room at one time? 3? Maybe 4? It's certainly not 17. All in your living room wallpapering at once. They'd all be bashing into each other and wallpapered, be tangled around people. It just wouldn't work. And the truth is that most software projects have a quality of the average living room. There's sort of an ideal size of team for a certain kind of project. And an experienced software developer will be able to spot that. What's the ideal team for this project? Now, the truth is that with the 17 wallpapers in the average living room, you probably could do it, but you'd have to do it a completely different way. You'd have to clear the dining room and have a couple of people cutting and a couple of people moistening the paper and then other people carrying the paper into the living room where the people are applying it to 2 or 3 are applying it to the walls. So the project then has to be organized in a completely different way, and the same is true for software. You can have a larger team to achieve an accelerated timeline, but it has to be planned out at the beginning and staged that way at the beginning, the same way you would need with the wallpaper in your living room. It's not an emergency cord to pull towards the end of a project.